I'm going to call Emmanuel of Techpoint on stage. You're up. And I'm going to call Mr. Ifeanyi Duru. He's a vice president at Monify. And they're going to be talking to us about shifts in experience and value creation in digital payments. Please clap for them as they come on stage. And wear your masks. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Good morning, and welcome to Techpoint Build 2021. And I'm sure we're having an awesome time. So far, so good. So apologies for the mix-up so far. My name is Emmanuel Paul. I'm a senior reporter at Techpoint Africa. And by my side, we have Ifeanyi Duru, the Vice President of Monnify, one of Nigeria's foremost digital payments providers. So today we're going to be talking about the shifts in experiences in digital payments and value creation. So it's a conversation that's going to stir up, it's a conversation starter, right? So I'm expecting a number of questions from the conversation we're going to have here. So I want you guys to pay attention. It's not just my questions, but the questions that might come up from the answers I will give. So, Ifeanyi, it's nice to meet you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, you have significant experience in the payment space, and you've worked with the likes of System Specs and InterSwitch. You've worked with Remita and significant experience, right? So, how would you rate digital payment adoption so far, so good?
Thank you for the question. So I think
Africa,
generally we're seeing significant progress in terms of adoption of digital payment, web payment, mobile payment. For the web payment, I think there was a slow adoption, and this is majorly due to infrastructure challenges. Internet penetration in Africa was still poor, and I'm looking back at 10, 15 years ago, internet penetration was still poor. The orientation in terms of online payment was still a new concept. Cash was still king. Then about 10 years ago, we saw the introduction, or we saw a pattern with online payment in terms of e-commerce. So the likes of Konga, the likes of Jumia kind of changed our orientation towards online payment. And significantly, then COVID came. Okay, and before COVID, a good number of organizations were okay with their current status quo in terms of cash payment. But with COVID, and at the peak of COVID, most of these businesses could not interact, physical interaction. So businesses that were thriving were actually businesses that had online payment and interaction. So a good number of businesses moved their engagement in terms of accessibility to their product online. For mobile payment, I think Africa is actually a major frontier. I was looking at a report from GSMA. Africa currently, 50% of the mobile money services are actually here in Africa. If you look at what's happening in Kenya with M-Pesa, the wallet model, Nigeria, the account model. So I think generally as a whole, there's been a significant adoption in digital payment, web and mobile.
Okay, thank you very much for that overview. So we're clearly seeing a trend, and the trend peaked at some points with e-commerce and Konga. So a lot of our audience will probably read tech news a lot, and they will see huge amounts of funding raised by fintech companies. So but the idea is for every other sector to work, the fintech has to work. So you mentioned e-commerce, you mentioned businesses during COVID. So what's the relationship between payments and every other sector?
Now, before now, I think payment has always been an afterthought for most businesses. But I can say today that payment is now part of the conversation. Payment is now core in terms of organizations providing their services. And this cuts across the different sectors. Whether you look at entertainment, today at our convenience, we can easily stream music, we can pay for premium content. Whether it's e-commerce, we can see the relationship between e-commerce and payment. You can easily, at your convenience, order and pay for goods and services. The same thing with the healthcare, the same thing with religious organizations and what have you. And I keep saying post-COVID, okay, the impact, most businesses have realized that payment has to be part of the conversation. For some of, payment is now a commonplace. In fact, for some of these businesses, payment is actually the driver in terms of accessibility to their product. So generally speaking, I think the gap between payment and other subsectors is actually closing, and I think that will be the pattern, especially now that our new reality is more or less virtual engagement.
Okay, so I guess once payment has not happened, business has probably not taken place. So, but so far so good, right? The adoption rate, it's, when you look at the numbers from the CBN and of course in Nigeria specifically, we see that we are basically a cash-based economy. So there's room for improvement for digital payment adoption. So where is this room supposed to take place, right? Is it education? Is it technology? Is it tech not good enough yet? Or is the tech so good people can't relate with it? So yeah, that's talking about user experience. So where is this room for improvement, if you get where I'm coming from?
Now, I think there's room for improvement in everywhere, to be sincere. I know in some of the areas you've highlighted, we are making significant progress, but I think there's room for improvement across all of them. Just to speak to a few of the points you mentioned. Regulation, for example, we need to ensure, the regulators need to ensure that whatever regulation they are putting in place are regulations that are not impacting innovation negatively. Okay, 2021 was not so good a year for a good number of some fintechs because the regulations that were put out really took them out of businesses. So I will advise engagement. I'm in support of regulation. A football match without a co-referee will be a chaos. But I want the regulators having real engagement with players in this industry to ensure that, as I've mentioned, regulation is not negatively impacting innovation. There's room for improvement in accessibility. If you look at the numbers now, internet penetration, broadband internet penetration is still between 45%, 50%, so there's clearly room for improvement. Education, we still need to create awareness. We still need to take the message out there, and we need to ensure that the message is put out in such a way that our target audience can relate. Most times I see a lot of communication that I fear the people we are speaking to will not be able to relate. So I think there should be all the parties involved, all the stakeholders, public sector. There needs to be a deliberate plan and strategy around creating real direct communication to meet our planned audience.
Okay, that makes sense. So before I continue, I would like to involve the audience. So in any typical transaction you have, which would you prefer? Cashless, or would you prefer to pay in cash? If you prefer to pay in cash, please, can we see a wave of hands? In any transaction you want to do, you prefer to pay with cashless payment? Cash, okay. Yes, we have one person who prefers to pay with cash. Who else? You prefer to pay with cash? Okay, all right. What about cashless? You like to do transfer, POS? Wow. Wow, we are all tech savvy here. Wow, interested. Nice. So it seems this audience is a bit familiar with digital payment, but they seem to have different preferences, right? The ATMs, the cards, internet banking, and USSD. So which of these platforms do you think will gain preeminence in the future?
Interesting question. So I'll speak to data. I'm looking at the numbers I'm looking at my own data, and I know it will be similar to some other payment platforms. If you look at the different existing channels, I think one channel that I believe there will be a lot of opportunities, what we call the pay with transfer, or pay with bank account number, or virtual account number, as some people know it. For obvious reasons, in terms of accessibility, literally if you just ask the question here, almost every person will have some form of mobile app from their banks. For some other people, is the USSD platform. So it is accessible. It is far cheaper for businesses to collect via that option when you compare with the other digital channels available. The success rate is also very high when you also compare with the other channels available. So I think overall, if I'm going to speak based on performance, and I know more use cases actually being developed around this channel. So overall, I think the pay with transfer option is one channel that has the opportunity to get close to cash. Maybe not really take out cash, because cash is still king in some quarters. But yes, I think that is one channel that we should look out for.
So transfer could get close to cash, probably. All right. So now, creating different experience for different people. Monify, you guys, I saw you guys say, oh, you have over 100,000 customers and you create different flexible experiences. So how does this happen for thousands of people?
So I think we actually have over 100,000 merchants.
Okay.
So I think what is key for us is when we started Operation 2018, most of the products we put out were actually products that we co-created with the organizations that were looking at solving the identified challenges. So we looked at the different verticals just to explain better. Take betting, for example. We went into the betting space. We engaged the lenders or the organizations that are currently providing credit to understand their different use cases, their challenges, and how to align our products with the identified challenges. So there was a lot of co-creation, okay, and that we were able to develop templates to fit into these different use cases. Also, we have been able to develop a model whereby we're able to get real-time feedback from these different organizations in terms of, oh, you need to tweak the platform this way. And so just to answer your question, there's a lot around co-creation to ensure that our products are not just generic products.
Okay.
We understand that two organization collection use case or processing use case will be different. And we try to align our product, and we've been able to build template out of this.
All right. I have to stop here. Thank you so much. But if Victor has been giving me his eyes. Okay. Please, a round of applause for Ifeanyi Duru. And I guess